Here's what's poppin' in today's history class: the influence of Islam on West Africa. So, once Islam got to West Africa, how did life change for the Africans living there? First up, you've already heard this before, but traders brought Islam to Ghana, and Muslims conquered North Africa between 639 and 708 AD, and they wanted to spread Islam to West Africa, but it wasn't practical to send armies there because Ghana was far away and you would have had to have crossed through the Sahara Desert, so that would be kind of inefficient. So what happened was Muslim traders and missionaries are the ones who ended up bringing Islam to Ghana. And because of that, many traders and missionaries who were Muslims settled in Ghana, and then that started up trade between West Africa across the Sahara with North Africa. So this information or that trade route, a lot of items traded were gold and salt, which you've also learned about. So I'm going to play a song for you relating to Arab Muslims wanting West Africa to meet Muslim. Any way you want it, it's the way you need it. Any way you want it. If at any point the video is going too fast and you need to catch up with your notes on your note sheet, you should pause the video so you can write down all the information that you need on your note sheet. Okay, so I only have 15 minutes to record this, so I'm going to try to be efficient, and if I'm going too fast for you, you should press pause, write down the notes, and then press play. All right, so once Islam is in West Africa, what happened? Well, you've learned already about Mansa Musa and Islam. So you're writing down some places where scholars came from, and they settled in Mali. They went there to do business. You also have learned a little bit about Mansa Musa's Hajj. So there's some more facts for you about the Hajj. It was very long, 3,000 miles. That's like going from Boston to Seattle, where my sister lives. And obviously, they were doing that with camels on land. So that was a long journey. Lots of people, over 228 times the population of the middle school. That's how many people were with Mansa Musa on the Hajj. And he was taking a lot of items, and you're writing some of those numbers in and the amount of gold and food and all this. So it was, I think, part of the Hajj not only to fulfill the pilgrimage for Mansa Musa, part of the point of the Hajj was to show other people in the world how wealthy Mali was and how powerful he was and how great he was, and that was part of the purpose too. All right, he is obviously bringing a lot of stuff and showing the world, I've got all these slaves and gold and camels. Am I amazing or what? I don't think he forgot to be awesome when he was going on the Hajj. So, where he went on the Hajj, I hope you're thinking of the same spot I am, which would be Mecca, which is in Saudi Arabia today. Mecca is where you go to perform the Hajj. Okay, so what about Islam in Songhai? What was that like? Well, not all the leaders in Songhai adopted Islam. Sunni Ali did not adopt Islam. But Oskia Muhammad became king in the 1490s, and he had some very strict laws to make sure people practiced Islam correctly. So if you can see it to the side, this was different than Mansa Musa. Mansa Musa had religious freedom and tolerance and did not force it on people, but Oskia Muhammad did things a different way. He also started wars to convert non-Muslims to Islam. See, he was a little more forceful about Islam than Mansa Musa was. He wanted other people to be Muslims. That is So What You Want by the Beastie Boys, one of my very favorite songs of theirs. And Oscar Muhammad wanted people to be Muslim. All right, moving on, we have what were some new religious practices that Africans were doing because Islam spread to West Africa. So the first box here tells you about what it was like. These are things they adopted from Islam, the African Muslims, learning about the 5 pillars, praying in Arabic, going to mosques, performing the hajj, thinking of all Muslims as one community. Now, at the same time, a lot of their old religious practices were kept as long as they didn't go against the 5 pillars. All right, so if something went against the 5 pillars, it would hit the road, okay, and not be used. So here are some examples. We have showing respect for spirits of dead ancestors. Another example would be using amulets or charms that were believed to help people or protect them from harm. So on the next slide, actually I'm going to go to the next slide and then I'll come back to this one because you probably have some more information to write down. Anyway, here are some amulets. Okay, they're just like little religious objects, trinkets, there's all sorts of different kinds. So make sure that you get all this information in, and if you need to pause the video, that's what you should do, and then you press play when you are all set filling in your notes. All right, so we're going to move on to ideas about government and law, new ideas related to government and law that came to West Africa because of Islam. So here we have how the next ruler was chosen. Before Islam, it went a lot of times through females, matrilineal, and then Islam made it so the next ruler was traced through patrilineal lines. It would go from father to son. So that's how it went. That's how it changed because of Islam. Also, with the law in Africa, a lot of places adopted the Sharia, which is Islamic law. And before the Sharia was used, a lot of law was more customary in that it wasn't written down. It was just what people accepted and what they were used to and what was always done, but it wasn't necessarily written down. So because the Sharia was used, since Islam spread to West Africa, the laws were now written. And people thought that they came from God, and it was just different. And then you had judges hearing cases in a court as opposed to just the old way it was done, which was, let's say a man was accused of not paying debts or injuring someone. The accused man might be forced to drink water that had been poured over sour, bitter wood, and if a man vomited, he was believed to be innocent. So it was more a trial and error, like you had to do a little something, and if something happened, then you were either guilty um, or not. So it wasn't official like the law we're used to, where there's laws and consequences, and a case is proven and a judge decides. It was a little more just like what had been always done and kind of more superstitious than official law. Moving on to education. So Timbuktu was a big center of learning, famous for Islamic scholars. It had a famous university, University of Sankore, and all you're writing in are some of the subjects that were studied once the basic subjects were mastered. And those are given to you, the basic subjects. and the highest degree would take about 10 years of studying. It was probably similar to what's a doctorate today. I don't know that it was called what it was called, but if you get your doctorate, it takes a while and lots of years of study to earn that. And you have to usually you have degrees before you get your doctorate also. So you've done a lot of school before you get your doctorate. That would be Third Eye Blind, which is a band that never was extremely popular mainstream, but actually they're one of my favorite bands. All right, so we're moving on to Quranic schools and books. Quranic schools would be schools that taught children about the Quran, believe it or not. Timbuktu had more than 150 of them. That's a bunch. All right, Muslims were really into books. So in Africa, they were really into books. And they were copied by hand, and a lot of some individuals, mosques, and universities created large libraries, and that was referred to in John Green's video. You know I love John Green. He never forgets to be awesome as far as I'm concerned. All right, Arabic. Once Arabic makes it to Africa, Muslims are expected to learn it so they can understand the Quran. It was used to write about different topics, and you're writing in how Africans use animals, plants, and minerals to cure diseases. That was recorded. And some history facts about Songhai Islamic law. So Arabic was like a common language that could be used throughout West Africa as opposed to local languages that a lot of Africans might have spoken before. And then Arabic was the common language for trade, and so that was easier, made communication for trade easier, and that would be beneficial because you could do more trading and get the good stuff that you wanted because you could actually talk to the person as opposed to silent barter where you have that whole system of banging the drum and laying down goods and all of that stuff. So that is the Dave Matthews Band, which I don't think has really been popular amongst eighth grade students that I can remember, but maybe your parents or older relatives, maybe in their 30s or 40s, like Dave Matthews. I don't know. Anyway, we're moving on. Architecture. I always thought it would be cool to be married to an architect just because they could build cool things or design cool things, but I have a teacher husband instead, which is great as well. All right, so I've shown you pictures of African mosques before. Mud and wood were used in the savannah to make mosques, and this is the Great Mosque of Djinn, Mali in Africa. I probably didn't say that right, but anyway, so this mosque, let me give you some info about it. So here is the website for this mosque, where I really wish they had a phonetic pronunciation of the mosque's name because I don't know how to say it. All right, as you can see, I try to ignore the FiOS information. I'm not endorsing FiOS. It is the largest mud-built structure in the world. It is one of the most unique mosques in the world, and it's a achievement of Sudano-Sahelian architecture, which Al-Sahili, the architect, is on the next slide. All right, it is one of the most famous landmarks in Africa. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The walls are made of mud brick and covered with clay plaster. The walls are 40 to 60 centimeters thick. And palm branches were used as beams to reduce cracking of the walls due to the sudden changes in temperature and humidity. And look at these other pictures. I'm going to have to go quickly back to the PowerPoint because my recording time is almost up. All right, I got about 20 seconds left. So I'm not really going to explain. I mean, this is an architect from Spain, Al-Sahili, who was a Muslim, and you should maybe need to pause it to write all the info. Here are some pictures of traditional African homes. I'm showing them because Al-Sahili's method of art or architectural style was different from the traditional homes. And his new design was more rectangular with brick and flat roofs as opposed to this style, which is round with a cone-shaped thatched roof. And lastly, we have the influence of Islam on decorative art. So we have calligraphy, what that was used for, geometric patterns, so similar to Islamic art. Traditional West African art used lots of geometric design, so that was a similarity between Islamic art and West African art, because remember, in Islamic art there was no pictures of God or humans or animals in religious art. And then for clothing, West Africans began to wear the Arabic robe, which many Muslims wear. This has been History Time in room 235 by Miss Morgan. See you next time.